Thank you so much for watching The Christian View. We're talking about a very serious topic today about divorce and the bitter ramifications that come from a divorce. But what about those precious children that are the pawns in this war? They're victims, and Lee, I guess of everything that comes from divorce, they're the ones who get hurt the worst.
Yes, and I think, when we look at it, definitely children are, they're affected emotionally by divorce, but it even goes further than that. In my line of work, we look at a theory called attachment theory, and it goes back to the relationship that a child had with parents. Now, in order for children to really be effective or considered to be 100% when they become adults, is that they have both functioning parents in the home and they move forward. And the first in the attachment theory is like they call what secure attachment. So when you have secure attachment, the parents are involved, then later in life, those children usually have healthy, sustainable relationships. They know how to relate. And there are many others. And I won't, really go through all of the different steps, but it just kind of speaks to the trick of the enemy of how Satan comes in early on to try to destroy the lives of our children and mess them up emotionally. And parents buy right into it when they start pulling and tugging and making the kids like a chess piece.
The child has to pick, and their DNA from the mother and the father are in that child, so it creates
a situation they didn't want to happen to begin with. They're just riding that train. They didn't cause the wreck.
That's right, but they have to live it, and they're constantly replaying the story in their head from childhood to adulthood.
And they live it the rest of their life. We've experienced that on Edward's side. His parents were divorced, and so there was the blended family, and even at its best, divorce is very challenging.
It is, even at its best.
You got to deal with it at graduations and birthdays and weddings and funerals and on and on and on it goes.
It never stops.
And they find themselves in the middle of something that they didn't cause. And they end up thinking that they're the ones that actually caused it. And so parents have to be the ones that, instead of filling their heads against the other parent, they're the ones that have to be as astute as possible to make sure that those children are whole.
Cameron, it's not a good situation, even if they have this split custody thing going on. And mama gets the child for a week, then they pack up and they go to daddy's house for a week, and then they're back at mama's house. That's not good either.
Well, there's a mom house and a dad house, and you can't bring that item to my house. So it's at your mother's house. Well, you're out of luck. You can't have
two of everything, and they grow up.
But what's even worse than that? Let's say dad leaves. Let's say dad is gonna go on to another state. Well, that child, all he hears from mom is dad left. Growing up, that child, daddy was here, and he's gone. So daddy's gone. Does not ever really know why. Just that daddy walked out on them.
And even if they know why, deep down it still creates a void and a wound, and it leaves them uncomfortable and anxious. I mean, they've done studies, it's even their skin, kind of crawling through their skin, and it leads to disorders like OCD and perfectionism and ways that they're trying to control their environment.
And that's really like the third characteristics in the attachment theory, the ambivalent, and it talks about the kids where they're in this relationship where they're inconsistently engaging with the parent, and then they grow up and they become anxious, they have all these other issues, they suffer from depression, and the list just goes on and on.
But, I mean, yes, all that's true, but you have to think, okay, 50% of the marriages end in divorce. Everything we're saying is so hopeless and sad, because I have two children, and I actually interviewed one of them because he just happened to move home from college about all these questions, and I said, I really want to know your feelings, and, the point is that if God is the center of the family, and he remains the center, and you as the custodial parent, hopefully keep the child's life consistent, keep the main thing, don't give in to Disney dad type relationships. You can't, because it may just happen. So I don't want to make the viewers think it's just everything's terrible about it, because I mean,
sometimes it's worse staying in the situation.
And that's what my son said to me.
Sometimes what those children are in is the worst of the two.
But it's how you handle it on the outcome.
It's all how it's handled.
There's a great book called The Nasty Divorce, where this author got the view of the children and what it meant. And all they cared about is, am I going to make it to softball? Can my
That's
friends still
it.
come over?
That's it.
Can I talk to my mom? Am I dead? Am I safe?
Or are you going to get me
Is
the new
life gonna
cell phone?
change? Am I
And
gonna
the parent
get it?
does because they're guilty because of the divorce. So whatever you want,
That's
baby, it's
worse.
yours.
Self-indulgence is not good. That
And
does not
don't
make up
put
for
your
bitterness.
baggage on your children. And that's what I see parents do over and over again. It's like hurting people hurt people. And you as a parent have to realize, I'm hurting. I may not love this person anymore, but he will always be their dad. She
Yes,
will
I
always
can't
be their
change
mom.
that.
And the child learns those bad habits because then they become manipulators as well because they
absolutely.
understand here's what I can get from this one and that one, and I can pit them against each
Exactly.
other.
And what Trudy was speaking to, I think, we have to help parents, and hopefully that's what people will take away from the show today, that as parents, we have to be the adults in the situation.
Yes.
And we
Oh,
have to look to what really is best for the children.
But they
And
don't see
most
that.
times,
I didn't see that.
Well, most
when you're
times
in the
they're
midst
looking at
of
it for,
it, it's
right,
just,
yeah.
you just don't see that part.
Yes.
I think you have to get the counseling so you're equipped to
Yes.
now be divorced and still
You're
be
right.
a
And
good
that
parent.
was the missing factor
Oh,
right there.
not for
put
me.
the burden on the children to try to solve the problems of the past or the future.
That's why divorce care and divorce care for
Yes.
kids is so powerful because it even teaches the children, your foundation, your core of your life should be Jesus Christ.
Right.
Not your mom, not your dad.
No.
We do that. We know you're hurting. We validate
Yes.
that. But they teach the children to focus on Christ. And that's where
I think
healing
that's the
comes.
bottom line. Everything that we're saying here, we understand, and I hope the viewers understand that everything that we're saying is that, the core, the answer is always
Right.
going to be
God.
God. There's going to be
Keeping
always going to be in
him centered.
scriptures. And I think, like Lee said, we have to be the adults that make sure that that's always the factor.
Well, I look at my two boys, and I look at when I went through the divorce, and they were like 12 and 15, and I could look at them, and and their dad, we won't even go there, but it was a sad, sad situation that pretty much removed him from their life, even to this day. And I could just look at them as being on the streets, just not being good husbands, not being good fathers. But Christ is their life. He is the center. They're both pastors, and they have great homes. They have great marriages. I mean, that is the difference maker.
It is the difference maker.
Stay with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the role of a step parent.